What is worth giving your life to? Have you ever asked yourself that question? My dream was to be known as Luke the physician. I wanted to be respected and to live a life of ease with my family. Some would say I threw my life away, but I discovered a story so compelling that giving my life to tell it was the only way I finally found my life. Really, I had no choice. God called me to this. I've spent my life recording the testimonies of those who were forever changed by their encounters with Jesus. The work has already changed me profoundly. The fantastic account of his birth, the amazing miracles, and the teaching so powerful they had to come straight from heaven. And now, it's time to write of Jesus' final trip to Jerusalem. Honestly, I've dreaded this day. The story is so powerful, so significant, that I'm afraid I'm not up to the task. Yet I pray that God will use my humble efforts so that people everywhere may hear the ultimate story of love, the story that begins once upon a tree. So when Jesus and the disciples entered the city, the crowds flooded the streets as news of his arrival spread.
See
Jerusalem, the holy city, so full of history and tradition, full of politics and power, full of hypocrisy and corruption. Jerusalem was a dangerous place for a prophet, and Jesus knew it. But instead of being careful, he preached the truth even more boldly than ever before. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to you. How I have longed to gather your children together, and you would not. Behold, your house is left to you desolate. And I tell you, you shall not see me until you shall say, Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Then he went into the temple and began driving out those who were selling and overthrew the tables of the money changers. And he said to them, Is it not written, My house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers and thieves. Beware of the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes, love to be greeted in the marketplaces, and have the most important seats in the synagogues. They devour widows' homes, and for a show make lengthy prayers. Such men will be punished most severely. The Pharisees and the high priest didn't have to wait long for their opportunity. Judas, one of the disciples, offered to lead them to Jesus when the crowds weren't around. It was almost too good to be true, and they quickly seized the opportunity. Jerusalem would waste no time in killing this prophet. We all remember times when we've had to say goodbye. As a physician, I've been there many times when a patient knows the end is near. I feel honored to be present as he gathers his loved ones around to say goodbye. Of course, there's always sorrow, but there is also a powerful presence in the room as someone stands on the threshold between life and death. I'm reminded of that very same feeling as I write about that last Passover meal Jesus shared with his disciples. Though his words must have confused them, it is clear now that Jesus was saying goodbye. There must have been a sweetness amidst the sorrow as he shared with them the bread and the cup, and the words he spoke would live with them forever. And he took the cup and blessed it. And he came out and went as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples also followed him. To the Mount of Olives, the Garden of Gethsemane. Sometimes when I write, the power and emotion of the story overwhelm me. I am a physician. a man of science, and yet the drama grips me. The scene is so striking. Jesus is praying in the garden, torn between his dread of death and his commitment to God. Even as he prays for deliverance, he knows that one of his own has gone to betray him. The other disciples, still puzzled by Jesus' words of doom, are exhausted and fight to stay awake. And then, just over the next hill, there is a procession of torches and swords as they come to arrest Jesus. Soon they will set into motion the hellish ordeal of a humiliating trial and a slow, torturous death.
Come, go to Gethsemane. I will take you there with me. Stay awake with me. Stay alert and pray with me. Pray that we will stand the test. All we need is peace and rest. We will pray as evening comes. Cup from me. It is more than I can bear. Must it be my destiny to die in shame and suffering? Still, I am your son. Your
Why did Jesus have to suffer so throughout his life? Is it inevitable that one who is courageous enough to stand for what is right, who lives in truth and love, must be persecuted by this cruel and corrupt world? Truth threatens, and love challenges, but both are vulnerable. After questioning and beating Jesus most of the night, they finally took him to trial. I'm still shocked by the rage of evil power that exploded on him. Even Pilate, the Judean ruler, was appalled by what they were doing to this innocent man. Pilate was ready to set Jesus free, but the crowd was relentless in its cry for his execution. Over and over. Crucify. Crucify. Crucify.
What has he done that he should die? Crucify him, crucify him. You chose to kill him, not I. Crucify him, his blood shall not be on my head. How favor of this for Jesus you decide. Crucify, give us promise, give us promise. One shall live, the other men shall die. Crucify, give us promise, give us promise. Why should I free a man like that? What has he done that he should die? Crucify, crucify, crucify. It's a promise, it's a promise, it's a promise. You just kill me, not I. Crucify, crucify, crucify. It's a promise, it's a promise, it's a promise. Crucify, 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 crucify. It's a promise, it's a promise, it's a promise. Crucify, crucify. Stop! Take him, he's yours to crucify. Crucify him, 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 crucify him.
As a physician, when I consider the act of crucifixion and what it does to the human body, I'm ashamed to be part of the same human race that invented it. The cruelty of the cross is unbelievable. The tearing of the flesh, the exposure, the dehydration, the suffocating pressure on the lungs. How could they inflict this kind of suffering on a man who had shown such extraordinary compassion to this world? I'm still amazed Jesus didn't fight back. He could raise people from the dead. Surely he could strike these people down. But Jesus didn't seek revenge. Instead, he did a miraculous thing that's still hard for me to fathom. He prayed for them. From the very cross on which they nailed him, Jesus prayed for his tormentors. Such an act of love is far beyond this world. It is a love that touches the depths of my soul. And the soldiers led him into the palace, and they called together the whole cohort. And they clothed him with purple, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him, and began to salute him. "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck him on the head with a reed, and spat upon him, and knelt down, and bowed before him.
Father, forgive
And after they mocked him, they took off the purple and put his own clothes on him, and led him out to crucify him. And they brought him to the place Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they crucified him, and divided his garments among them, casting lots to see which each one should take. And those who had passed by hurled insults at him, wagging their heads and saying, "Ha! You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from that cross." And Jesus cried with a loud voice and breathed his last.
Jesus Christ, best treasure, love beyond all measure. How could you forgive the pain and cruelty that you bore? From the cross you showed us the miracle of grace. Lord, we stand in reverence of the life you gave to come to save the world. Lord, you come as Savior, full of love and favor. Who could ever stand before your throne without your grace? As we are forgiven, so let us live to sing, lifting high our voices as we worship you in gratitude and praise. We bring
Sometimes death can be a blessing. One of the few who stayed until they lowered Jesus down from the cross was his mother Mary. It had been torture to stay and watch her son suffer so, but now his suffering was over, and though her heart was breaking, she must have felt a sense of relief.
Oh, my precious Jesus, now your suffering's over. Poor and tortured body, now it's time to rest. Why were they so angry? Love was turned to hating. How could they kill you, steal your life away? it's time to rest.
And the woman saw the tomb and how the body was laid in it. And they went home and prepared spices and perfumes. But they rested on the Sabbath. Lord God, your will is a mystery, that you would become a man and subject yourself to the cruelties of this world to demonstrate your love for us. Have mercy on me, for I am not worthy to even set my pen to the telling of this story. Still, through your death you gave us life. Through your grace you made us whole. And by your strength I will never turn from telling the story of your deep and holy love. With every breath I take, through every day I live, let me be a witness to this story of your heavenly love. I'm exhausted from this writing, as though I'd actually lived through the story. I'll continue tomorrow. It's time to rest. I could not sleep in peace if the story ended at the tomb. I would not give my life to its telling, but tonight I rest in the assurance that tomorrow belongs to the Lord. I rejoice in the glorious things I have yet to tell, the miracle of an empty tomb, the wonder of Jesus' resurrection, and his appearance to people on earth. Then there are the glorious eyewitness accounts of Christ ascending into heaven right before their eyes. Now I travel with the Apostle Paul and see mighty wonders with my own eyes. There is so much more to be written as I continue to record the Acts of the Apostles. Each day is an adventure as we take the story of Christ to the ends of the earth. I have been faithful in recording all these things, and now I place them in your hands. What will you do with this story? I pray that you'll embrace this story and allow Christ to live in you and through you. Live your life with a great hallelujah for all that Christ has done.